This is Bumblebee, Windblade, Chase,
and a bottle of Captain Morgan. Cheers. There's a lot of things that I like about these figures.
And some stuff I don't like. We will get to those.
What the hell is even that?
Bumblebee is from Transformers Animated, a show widely regarded as being one of the best Transformers shows of all time, which if we're being honest is a pretty low bar since most Transformers media isn't actually that good.
Cast it into the fire! Destroy it!
I am excited to take a look at this figure. Windblade is from the Cyberverse series. We don't get a lot of Windblade figures, and the first one that was ever released was not good. When I first saw this figure online, I didn't really like it. I also thought it looked a bit bulky, but when I opened up the figure and held it, I gotta say, I am starting to like it. Finally, we have Chase the Rescue Bot. He has the eyes of a killer. Chase is from the Rescue Bots show. He is a stickler for wanting to enforce the extreme letter of the law.
That sounds really intense.
There was a fourth figure in this wave, but it didn't appeal to me. It's probably a good figure, it's just not something I'm interested in. Now the plastic quality on all these figures is pretty good. Nothing feels cheap here, and surprisingly these figures have a decent weight to them. I was expecting Bumblebee to feel a bit light since he is a pretty small figure, but no, he's got some decent weight to him. And when I say this figure is small, I mean he is slightly larger than a core class. Here he is next to core class of Grimlock and Optimus Prime, and some other figures I'll forget what to throw in it when editing.
Now until we get to the transformation section of the video, if I use the word transform or any variation of that, I will have to take a shot. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. This is not an excuse for my alcoholism.
Now him being tiny is a good thing. Bumblebee is a small dude, and he was small in the animated show. And for how teeny tiny he is a surprisingly good and well engineered figure. In terms of accuracy, he looks accurate enough. He's definitely a lot bulkier than his animated counterpart, but I think it looks good here.
He also doesn't feel like he's been as G1ified as much as animated Optimus was,
which was a problem I had with that figure. Don't get me wrong though, that is still a pretty good figure, and this Bumblebee pairs really well with him.
I love you guys so much.
However, I do feel like this is a better toy-to-show representation, while also being a modernized version of the character. I do find his jetpack accessory to be a little bit interesting. I'll get more to that later.
Now his head clearly sticks out to me as animated Bumblebee.
It's got the iconic shape from the Transformers animated show. Dang it. Black. Oh, wow. He's got the iconic shape from the animated show. He still has those horns and a black outline at the top as well as around the face. Some very bright blue eyes. I really like that. And some silver for the face. You also get his smirk, which is a nice touch.
So Bumblebee's head is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down, but when you try to do that, there's a hinge joint back here for the transformation. So if you do want to make his head look up, you kind of need to push forward while bringing his head up. Why is this so tough to do? It can't spin around and it is very tight.
Coming down to the chest piece, there is a problem there. As you can see, it is a translucent plastic. Same over here with this back piece. It is painted yellow and black, and the paint matching on here is done pretty well. You can still tell it's paint though. That was the first thing I noticed when I looked at it in the packaging. And having his entire chest piece be a translucent that's a tough word to say when you're buzzed. Having his entire chest piece be a translucent plastic does kind of worry me. Like even the sections where the hinges are a translucent plastic.
I am more worried about this translucent plastic than my ability to stay sober at an anime convention.
It would have been nice if this was casted in maybe a black color with yellow painted on, or perhaps a yellow plastic with black painted on for the windows. I wouldn't mind having blacked out windows for this figure, because with it being translucent, you can kind of see his insides. Another interesting thing is that unlike the original animated Bumblebee figure, this one has the black stripe on the right side, or the left side, which is the correct side, while the animated figure had it on the left side. The shoulders are done pretty well, accurate to the show. The wheels on them are also accurate to the show. Now coming down to the rest of his arms, we do have a door for the vehicle mode, and a little bit of nice detail on the figure, but not a whole lot.
We can move it out to the side. It does not spin a full 360. It goes up to about right over there. There is a joint over here as well, and we can bring it back about right over there. We do get a bicep rotation, an elbow bend, and some hand rotation. That is very tight.
And this door can open all the way like that, so we can flip in his hands as part of the transformation and for the accessories, which we will get to later. Really tough to do while drinking. Coming down to the legs, these are sculpted very nicely. Now over here, the stripe is on the wrong leg. It's over here on this side, if you do care about that animation accuracy. I also find the legs to be a little bit bulkier than the animated show. That animation stylization isn't here, but it does work well with the rest of the figure. The entire figure is a bit more blocky than the original toy and the Transformers show. I still find myself liking it, and like I said earlier, it doesn't feel too G1ified, and I did say the T word there, so So that is 3 so far. I feel like I do go back and forth on the whole, oh, it should be G1 and it shouldn't be G1. Here's the thing, I'm an idiot, okay? Anyways, as I was saying, the legs do look pretty good, and we do have the wheels on the side. We also have some 5mm ports, which do show up in the vehicle mode and will look kind of ugly when we get to that.
We do have some knee pads for this guy, which is really nice. We do get some waist rotation, legs out to the side, forward, knee bend, and back over there.
Now his feet are done in a very interesting manner. In addition to being lickable, in this show, the feet are the front of the car mode, and we do have the front of the car mode sculpted here on his feet. But if we turn the figure around, we have the actual front of the car mode for when we T-word the figure. And I find that to be an interesting choice. If these on the back were at the front, it probably would have made his feet look big, which is probably why they went with this design instead. Still, it's kind of weird to have the front of the vehicle mode on both sides of the figure technically.
We do get some foot pivot and some back and forth.
And here's the back of the figure. We do have some nice detailing over here, and luckily he doesn't really have that big of a backpack. It's just kind of this thing over here for the vehicle mode. I am really impressed with the robot mode on this figure. Now let's move on to the accessories. So we get these 2 clear plastic pieces for his boosters, and then we get some drill bits. The boosters or jetpacks, whatever you call them, it's been a while since I've seen this show. They are sculpted very nicely. However, I don't really understand why they are a translucent plastic. They do feel sturdy though. This goes on... It's very hard reading my script right now. They do feel sturdy though, and they go on the back of the figure, just like so. We also get these 2 drill bits. Now the way to put these on are, we can either open this up, bring in the hand, and somehow put the drill on. Oh, this is a little tough to do. Oh, I'm struck. Okay. Oh boy. We can... oh no. It goes on like that, as you can see. Alternatively, the instructions say to put it on like this. Why is this so tough to do? And we can put it on like so. And we can put them on the back like this and have these pieces be sort of effects pieces for the boosters. It's very refreshing to see a Bumblebee figure that looks like this. There's a lot of Bumblebee figures out there that look realistic because of the movies. Now, the only Bumblebee figure I feel like I could compare this to is maybe Earthspark Bumblebee, but I sold that, so whoopsie. Here is Bumblebee compared to the Studio Series Rise of the Beast Bumblebee. As you can see, this one has that more mechanical and sort of realistic design to it. It's definitely much taller than animated Bumblebee. Now, before we get into his transformation, fuck. Number 4. Ow, it's starting to sting my mouth. And before we get to his conversion, that's the word Hasbro prefers, and vehicle mode, we're going to move on to Windblade. Windblade is the dummy mommy of all Transformers. Oh, I did say the T word there, didn't I? Shot number 5. As I was saying, when I saw the figure online, I didn't really like it, but now holding it in my hand, I gotta say, I think it looks pretty good. Still not 100% perfect. There are a few things I wish they changed, but overall, I think this is one figure that looks a lot better in person than it does online. Online, the figures seem to be a lot bulkier, but in person, it is still bulky, just not as much. Now in the show, Windblade does look a lot slimmer, but it still works for this figure. I kind of realized it had to be like that for the vehicle mode to work. The original figure was also a bit bulky, and this feels more like a representation of that than a one-to-one of the show. Windblade is a slim character in general, and I'm not saying she has to be sexualized like a lot of the third-party figures are, but maybe making this slightly slimmer would have been nice. But overall, the bulk doesn't really bother me as much anymore. This figure feels solid in my hand, except for this wing, which feels a little bit loose. Standing is getting a little bit hard for me right now.
Anyways, here's a random size comparison.
The sculpt work on this figure and the detail is really nice. Moving straight into the head, I think the way the head sculpt is done is pretty good for a figure this small. The amount they managed to pack onto this looks really nice, especially with that paintwork. This piece at the back can come off. It's a little hard to take off right now, and you know what? I don't really want to. But trust me, it is an accessory for her to hold. Not the most important accessory like her sword is, which we'll get to that later. I like the way this kind of hair section is molded on. The blue and gold paint is really nice along with the blue eyes, and I do like the kabuki style makeup around it. It is impressive how they managed to get that design to look this good on a figure this small. She also has some red lips. What I don't like are these sort of frown lines on her. That looks kind of weird to me.
This head can move up and down. It doesn't seem like we can spin it a full 360. That's about as far as I can get it to go, and I do not want to break the figure because I actually like this one.
This head sculpt is way better than whatever the hell this was. Coming down down to the torso and shoulders, as said earlier, yes, it definitely is bulky, but I do like the way it is designed. The shoulders are pretty basic, not a whole lot of details to them, not as angular in the show either. Arm detail is also pretty basic. We do have some nice paintwork of blue over here, and we do have fins for her vehicle mode.
Arms can move out to the side. Rotation moves like that. The wings do get in the way. We do get some bicep rotation and elbow bend. Hand rotation, hell yeah. Sometimes deluxe figures don't get these.
The hands are sculpted nicely, but I want to get back to this area. She does have some little boobies. I like the blue paint around them, as well as the sculpt for the abdomen. It is done so nicely. In the show, it is pretty plain looking, but over here, they really managed to give it a more mechanical design. The silver paint is also nice. I really love all the designs on here in that silver paint. Now for her wings, I don't really like the hollow. What is this over here? Is it flaking? Get out. Back to her wings. Like I was saying, I don't really like the hollowness over here, and it is personal preference, but you can flip these around and have that painted side facing towards you. There is no blue outline on them like there is in the show. Not too much to say over here, but coming down to the legs, this is sculpted so well. Once again, they do seem a little bit bulky when compared to the show, but I still do think it looks very nice. The general design is still pretty accurate to the show, and we do have some blue paint up here once again, and some nice dark silver. You can see a little bit of nice details throughout the leg as well, and if we look on the back here, there's a little bit more in terms of detail.
Waist rotation, legs moving forward all the way back there. We do get a knee bend. Legs can rotate like that over here.
Now, I'm not a big fan of the feet, and no, it's not because I have a foot fetish. The feet are angled in this weird way, so when you put her down, they're supposed to stand. So when you put her down, they're not fully... Ooh, I did not have this problem earlier. There you go. So when you put her down, they're not fully flat on the ground.
Wait, no, what am I saying? I have this wrong. I'm an idiot. Maybe alcohol is bad. Feet can move back and forth like that, and we do get a nice little pivot. Now coming to the back of the figure, oh my god, she has a very big backpack.
But that feels like part of the compromise they had to do to get this figure to look this good for the robot mode. Now she does come with a sword, and this looks really cool. I'm really liking the purple flame designs that are going on over here. That is just really sick to me, in my opinion. The handle, it almost fell out of my hand. The hilt, that is called a hilt. The hilt of the sword is also sculpted very well. Now we can compare her to my other Windblade figure. First, need to figure out where that figure is. There it is. There you are. Do I have the hand-eye coordination right now? Maybe if I open this more? Grabbing. I got her. Here's a comparison of pretty much what is the first release of Windblade to her more recent release. And side by side, I got it. Oh, the wings. Let's bring the wings out. Side by side, I gotta say, this is so much better than this. I have done a review on this figure where I pretty much talk trash about it. The head sculpt on this figure isn't nearly as great as the head sculpt on here. This figure does go for those slimmer proportions, and I feel like the backpack on here was maybe done a little bit better, but overall, these two side by side, I definitely prefer this figure over this one. The feet on this also hinder this in such a way to where it's really hard to get it to stand. But yeah, everything about this figure is much better than this figure. Here is another Windblade figure we can compare it to. This is a knockoff of the Windblade model kit, which is a licensed model kit made by Flame Toys. As you can see, this figure has a lot more of a feminine design to it because it is meant for horny adult collectors who are degenerates like me. While this figure is meant for partially adult collectors, this figure cannot transform, so that's why it can get away with those slimmer proportions.
And when I say proportions,
this piece can also come off, which is a little bit horrifying and kind of dumb. Also, I just realized they have different colors for the eyes. Anyways, whatever I'm trying to say here, I don't really know. All I know is just for fun, I want to take another shot of this.
I'm really not keeping myself together this video.
Now let's move on to Chase the Rescue Bot. He is a Transformer number 6. So I'm not very familiar with this character out of all these figures. I think he's probably the weakest one, but that doesn't mean he is bad. But I will say I don't really have a personal attachment to this character. I have done a little bit of research on the character, and looking at some images online, I will say Chase has a very simple design to him, and this figure does encapsulate that. Now this figure is definitely a bit more boxier than his appearance from the show, but still, this is a pretty decent looking figure, except when we turn him around to the back where it falls apart. Yikes. Even from the side here, geez, that is bad. Now from the front, I do think this figure looks pretty good. If you're not a big fan of Chase, I still think you might like this figure. It is pretty neat to have as part of your collection. With the head sculpt, he does look pretty serious, which apparently Chase is a very serious character. I wouldn't really know. The top of the head is a police cap with the police emblem. Ooh, that was tough to say right now. With the police emblem. He also has those Optimus Prime style bunny ears. He also has a very nice blue visor. I love the color of paint on that, and he has the chin of a Giga Chad.
His head can move up and down. We do get a rotation there. I completely covered that up. We get a rotation over here.
Now the chest piece on this figure is also a translucent plastic like the Bumblebee one. It's kind of hard to tell, but it seems like it's one translucent piece of plastic that is clear over here and then tinted yellow for the rest of it. I really cannot tell if this is one or two pieces. The blue and white on his chest are definitely paint though, and the paint matching on this is also pretty good. The shoulders are looking nice, and they are more rectangular rather than circular like they are on the show. Oh boy. Coming further down, we have the doors on his arms. Oh, this is falling out. We'll look at that later. I do feel like the doors are a little bit too big and cover up his hands, but I'm assuming it has to be like that for the vehicle mode. The rest of his arms are a pretty basic sculpt, which is a good thing and accurate for this character.
Arms out to the side. We do get some arm rotation. It does kind of run into the back there. Bicep rotation and elbow bend. I'm completely messed up his arm now. Unfortunately, this one doesn't get any hand rotation, so that makes this figure a 0 out of 10. Just kidding.
Let's go to the legs. Once again, pretty boxy. If we do turn it to the inside, I feel like it kind of falls apart here and looks a little bit weird. We do have some yellow translucent plastic here for the lights, which will look nice in the vehicle mode.
Waist rotation. I've accidentally separated the figure in half. I didn't mean to do that. I was going to show off the waist rotation. Legs can move forward. Back over there, we do get a rotation and a knee bend. Foot pivot, not really any back and forth, but the heel can move.
Once again, let's turn this guy around and look at the back of the figure. We do have that red and blue cop lights over here with some of that nice silver. It's unfortunate that the rest of the back of the figure looks like this. Yikes. In terms of accessories, we do get this blue transparent claw thingy. Again, as someone who hasn't seen the show, I don't know too much about this other than the fact that it's probably just a claw for him to grab things with. Now, I don't have any other Chase figures to compare this to. What I do have is a 2007 movie Barricade, and they both turn into cop cars, so that's a similarity there, and one is good and one is evil. You know what Chase the Rescue Bot does kind of look like though? Jazz. They both have that blue and white to them, and they're about the same size. The alcohol is really getting to me.
Now before we get into the transformation, does that one count? Yeah, we'll count that one.
Number 6. Now before we get into the conversion of these figures and their vehicle modes, I gotta say, all three of these are pretty good. I really like how Bumblebee looks. It probably could just be in my... Why is it so hard to say these words? It could just be mild nostalgia, but I really do think he is a great looking figure. Why was that so tough to say? Putting the figure gently aside, grabbing the other figure. I'm also surprised about how much I like Windblade. I thought I wasn't going to like her as much, and there's still some things I'm not a big fan of, but overall I think it's good to have another Windblade figure since there's not a whole lot of them. With Chase, even though I have no attachment to the character, I still think it's a pretty alright figure. This isn't really a figure I would personally buy though if I didn't have a review channel.
Gonna stop the drinking game so I can say transform now and sober up.
To transform Bumblebee, the first thing we want to do is come to the feet and flip these in. Now we can untab his chest piece and flip that over, connecting it up at the top. Open these panels at the feet over here, bring that in, bring in his foot, rotate that around. Same with this one, open that up, bring in the foot, close that in, rotate this around. Come to the other side, close both of these in and tab them together, which, oh, nope, that wasn't supposed to happen. It's being a little tricky. I am sober at this point, by the way. Rotate the waist 180 degrees, unhinge the figure from the back, and it might be tight the first time around. Let's move this out of the way so that way we can bring this down, and the windshield does need to tab into these slots over here, so go ahead and do that. We probably need to adjust that later. We can leave this down there for now. We can come over to the arms, open that flap up, bring in the hand, and leave that flap there for now. Come over here, do the same thing, open that up, flip that in, and leave that there for now. So this part of the arm can be a little tricky. Let's make sure it's hinged out like that. We can rotate the arm this way, and rotate the shoulders to where it is like this. Bring that up, bring that in over there. Adjust that properly into place, rotate it up, and bring it into the side. Now it's just a matter of adjusting everything. We can come to this back, and that does slot in over there on both sides, so go ahead. Haha. And make sure you can get it to snap into place, and without the pieces falling off, making sure everything is in the proper place. And here is the vehicle mode for a Bumblebee. I will say, for a pretty small deluxe class figure, he does have quite a bit of a complex transformation. I wouldn't call it a difficult transformation though.
I really do like the vehicle mode for Bumblebee. It's a very nice and cute looking car. However, there are a few downsides to it. So mainly from the top and front, it looks good. I love the black racing stripe going down the side, and this red light thingy here that is a translucent red plastic. I like how the front section is with the silver headlight and the grille piece painted in black. I like how the wheels are done and the rims on them. And from the underneath, everything does look very nice and compact. Now what I don't like is how he looks from the side. That's where I feel like the figure kind of falls apart, especially with these two ports over here. Mainly the one here at the front is the ugliest looking one, and that hinge doesn't help either. I definitely feel like if this port wasn't there, it would help make this vehicle mode look a bit cleaner. And the rest of the side doesn't look too great. Maybe if you can get everything to line up perfectly, it'll look better, and I accidentally undid that. Whoops. Now the back of the vehicle mode does look pretty plain. There's no paint at all over here, and you can even see some taillight detail going on. It would be nice if that was painted in, because this back does look very plain. But overall, I think it's a pretty passable vehicle mode. It's so much smaller when compared to other vehicles that are in the deluxe class scale, because once again, he is Bumblebee and he is a smaller character.
To transform Windblade, the first thing we want to do is come to the shoulders and bring them down to where they click into place. Bring that nose cone down, and we can untab this, take this piece and bring it out. Same with this one on this side, bring that out. Let's see, we can bring the wings down like this, come to the back and flip that over, close it together, covering up her head, come down to the legs where we'll flip them over 180 degrees, and we can connect them together. Grab those feet, and instead of licking them, we will bring them down, get that tail fin and flip it up, bring this out on the side, same over here, come to the bottom where we will take out these flaps, shift in the legs like this, and while we're at that, make sure to grab these flaps and bring them out all the way. Oops, don't want to do that. Bring them out all the way. Now we can bring this up and have it flush. Now these flaps do tab in over here, so go ahead and adjust that to where we get it in there. Same with this one. These hands will come to the side and go right over there. Bring this one there too. Bring the wings down and tab them into place on both sides of the figure. And here is the vehicle mode for Windblade.
Now the transformation for Windblade was pretty simple. In fact, that was my first time transforming it on camera, so if I messed up, I'm going to look like an idiot. So this vehicle mode is pretty good. It's a very nice looking VTOL. Now obviously, if we turn it to the side, we can see the arms, and if we look underneath, it does kind of fall apart. I still think it is well done from underneath and the side. They got it to look the best they could, and this is kind of normal for any type of plain vehicle mode. Having these fins at the bottom is kind of weird though. There is some landing gear up here that is a little bit difficult to take out. There we go. That is a pretty nice touch to add. Looking over at the top, there is some nice detailing work going on here. I really do like those tiny rivets, and we do have some really nice panel working going throughout it. The level of detail on this VTOL mode is really nice, and I like how the legs integrate seamlessly into the vehicle mode. I do also like how we get a cockpit at the front. It's in a nice translucent plastic, so you can see through it, and you can definitely make out the two seats at the front and the sort of console area. However, you cannot lift this up. Now this looks so much better than the vehicle mode we got for the first Windblade figure from the Generations line. Color-wise, it also looks so much better, and the legs on here integrate so much better than the legs on that. You can clearly tell that those are actually legs.
So now to transform Chase, first we're going to want to flip his head around, grab this chest piece and bring that out, and then grab the rest of the chest, bringing that out, and bring it all underneath the light bar. Come down to the legs, grab it from here and bring that out, hinge that down. Same with this one, bring that out, and then hinge the leg down. Bring both of these feet in, rotate this around to where it connects into place like that. Then we can bring this light down and make sure this is tabbed in properly. Flip this over, make sure that is lined up properly. Bring that light down. You can rotate his legs around to where they're now facing like this. Connect the legs from over here first. Then we can connect the front part of the vehicle mode. Now for some reason on my copy of the figure, this is about as good as it gets, so there is a gap over there. Grab the rest of the figure and bring it down and make sure this white part goes underneath this blue section. Now we can grab his arms, shift it over there, and make sure this tabs in underneath. Grab that arm, bring it around, shift it over there, make sure this goes underneath there. Come to the back and make sure this is tabbed in on both sides.
If this happens, you'll need to readjust the figure.
Now since this piece doesn't fully connect on my copy of the figure, a frustrating thing about this is that when trying to adjust this area, this will undo itself, so that is a little bit frustrating for this figure. But once we get everything nice and fitted, we can finally bring this down, and it is a little bit difficult, but it does need to tab underneath this. There we go, like that. So go ahead and do the same thing over here and get that tabbed in. That does require a little bit of force. And here is the final vehicle mode for Chase. Now a slightly easier way you might find to transform this figure is to have the front of the car mode disconnected like that, and then have it slide on to this section of the vehicle mode like this.
Now the transformation for Chase was a little bit finicky, and I really do think that is because this part on my copy of the figure doesn't close in all the way, which is kind of annoying to deal with. But overall, we get a very nice vehicle mode. Now a really funny thing about this this figure is that he has way too many exhaust pipes on him. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 at the back over here. 8, 9, 10. We have 10 exhaust pipes on this guy, and that makes no sense for a vehicle, but he is a Transformer, so he could get away with that. The yellow tinted window is kind of like the color of piss, but overall the vehicle mode seems pretty accurate to the show, at least from what I can gather. He doesn't have a whole lot of molded detail on him, but for what he does have on him, it does look pretty nice. I think the front looks pretty good, and I do like how the headlights integrate as part of the transformation. I do like the silver color of the grille, and we can see that cop insignia at the front. The light bar at the top also looks great with the silver and the really nice red and translucent blue bits. It does seem like some paint may have gotten on my copy of the figure. Here's how he looks from underneath, and the wheels over here are a bit plain, sadly. While it is molded well, we don't have any silver paint, and they are on a mushroom peg. Turning over to the back, we do have a bit of more nice molded detail on this section of the vehicle mode, but these gaps here do look kind of weird. Here are all three side by side in the vehicle mode if you want a sort of size comparison. All three of these figures are really fantastic, and if you want to see another review, check out this video over here.